Okay, so as always, I like to tell you if I'm sharing something from a inspirational piece, and I told y'all about my last week's inspirational vitamin coming from Mr. Dan Gilbert. I guess he's just my virtual mentor right now. He's not even aware, but it's all good. He has a book that I describe to you guys as uh, a family a book a book of family businesses that are his companies under the rock companies. I'm gonna actually show y'all what this looks like since I'm also capturing this on video. But this book is called Isms in Action, and I love this book. I can't begin to tell y'all. It's a small component compared to what this man has been able to do, but he has a family of companies in here. All of these are his companies, and it's amazing. You don't even realize sometimes the connection of different businesses, brands, or stuff like that around you. Of course, with me being part of that root of media, marketing elements, uh, branding itself is such an essential thing. And for my own awareness, I wasn't even, I don't think I even knew the kind of space this man occupied totally as far as all the different businesses he's tied to. But I'm not going to kind of go into that whole deep detail, but I will tell you that a lot of the brands that we've touched or familiar with or have come to connect, like one of the things I got to mention that was interesting, one is venture capital and private equity companies, GSTV. If you've been to a gas station and seen the little televisions at the pump, guess what? He's a venture capitalist investor of the GSTV brand, which is pretty dope. And he's got a ton of them, but I don't want to digress too big. I did mention Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Rocket Mortgage, and quite a few other things that he's tied into. Um, Listen, I'm not mad at him. And so what this comes down to, this is like a little manual of discussion of culture for the companies and the employees that make up all of these companies to have these cool reminders. And so the piece that I read off to you today, Ignore the Noise, stemmed from here. And what I think is amazing is that the aspect of just that little statement says it all. That I think everyone can attest to things that can become so distracting that they feel like noise, and it can overcome your thoughts. It can overcome your brain power to be able to navigate other thoughts or focus or concentrate on things that you're doing. And sometimes if you're not tapping into the factor and even remotely aware that you have things diving at your attention, that it will make it easy to sink into the noise and allow the noise to overcome you. And next thing you know, you're frustrated or you're not doing anything. You might be unmotivated to do other things. So what I've come to know is that sometimes you have to do drastic things that will allow you to separate yourself from other things that may not need your attention. And I feel like we all know what that could be like, So for many people now working virtually, and they may be working from home, so they'll try to separate themselves from the main part of their other compartments of their house. They may not want to be anywhere near their bedroom. They may not want to be anywhere near areas that lead them to feel like they want to relax, right? But some people are disciplined to where you can sit in your bedroom and work and do what you need to do because you're locked in and focused. So for those who do that, I commend you, because that's not always a place where I can, totally sit for myself to focus and work from, because most time if I'm going into my room is to sleep or to relax. So I'm so grateful with me being able to say that, having the Live My Radio studios and Live My Brand studios overall, and being able to have that separate space, because sometimes you need to be able to put yourself in a situational space that allows you to focus on what it is that you need to do or accomplish. And for me, this is definitely how one of the places I ignore the noise. You know what's so cool? If you notice, I got on headphones so I can hear myself speak. I can hear myself talking into the mic. And, you know, these mics pick up everything. So I even have to keep my air conditioner off during the time of my recording because the mics will pick up all of the sound, and the whole system is running and tilting, and it overcomes. The next thing you know, most people that are maybe sitting in front of me that are mic'd in. And I know the other day I had some of my guests in, and I told them, I said, okay, guys, I'm going to turn the air down and turn it off so that we can record. And I told them, I said, listen, you hear the sound right now through your mics, and then when I turned it off, they could hear the difference. And so, but sometimes when you're engaging in conversation, you don't hear and pay attention and hear the other things that's surrounding you. So, you know, you can only know how to ignore the noise, but I think it's very important to know that you recognize what is a noise factor for you. And I don't always mean disturbing, loud, screeching, bamming. That's not all the noise that I'm referring to. Sometimes that noise, like I mentioned in some of the things that I read, it can come in the form of a person. It could be social media interaction, right? It can be people's opinions. It can be even your own mind. Your own mind can create a lot of noise if you have a lot of things that are overstimulating you and you can't necessarily get situated enough to pay attention to one thing. It could be things in your surroundings that are causing you to feel like you're in a center of noise, right? It's amazing how those things can transpire and transform into different elements. It does not have to be something physically in front of you, or something that you can touch. It could be something that could be on you. It could be something that is within you. It could be something that is of your past, right? And guys, when I tell you, you give yourself the permission to focus in on what it is that's important to you, it sets you free. It just gives you a different way of being, and it makes you feel like you're able to accomplish so much more because you're not allowing yourself to be, you know, just overcome with everything and anything at that particular time. And sometimes you have to do it, you know, moment to moment. Sometimes it cannot be something that is a designated time period that you allow yourself to focus on. It could be something that is of a long-term circumstance or situation. Interesting enough, today I went to a long overdue chiropractic appointment, and I gotta tell you guys, like I came in here after falling into a nice nap, and that nap, I could tell, was so much release, so much of the toxicities that were built up around my neck and my back and in my legs. I mean, like my whole entire body felt the massive amount of buildup, of tension, of pressure, and just, you know, just things that have just been accumulating over time. Because it has been some time since I had an adjustment. I had to find the right chiropractor, because I remember going to this one place, and first time going, it was like in and out, no real adhere of x-rays. You don't even know what I'm physically walking around, you know, looking like from the inside. And, you know, I remember I went twice. And then after the second time, I was like, yo, you just laying me on the table, adjusting me and sending me out the door. And you don't even know exactly what was going on within me. I know that there's some things that need to be adjusted and addressed, but how can you see if you haven't taken the time to look, right? So today, when I went for my two-part of my initial session with this chiropractic care, I gotta tell you guys, it was just, it was so revealing. For the first time, I had never had such a detailed overview of my body as it pertains to my present. And it was eye-opening, to say the least, to know that you can see so much from x-rays, and then the body tells you stuff if you pay attention to your body. That's one of the things that you don't want to ignore, right? Sometimes you can have so many other things that are taking up space and taking up noise and taking up, your attention, and you're not aware of what's even going on in your own body. And hey, if I'm not talking to you, don't even fret. But for those who understand what I'm saying, there is a significant thing to know that you feel something that's off, and you don't know exactly what it is, but you know that there's a change and there's a difference. And so for today was, I feel like I just got baptized or something. That's just how renewing I felt after coming off of the tables and the traction table, and in my sessions, and my the overview of my x-rays and what I'm looking like on the inside. It was just so crazy that so many things over the years are showing up, in that this, my doctor could see the evidence of what has been going on for years. And mind you, I've only made encounterment with her twice. Today was my second day of being in front of her. Her first time really physically putting her hands and addressing some of the things that she found. But guys, when I tell you, not paying attention to the volume of my body speaking to me left me to have to recognize the long-term effect of what that has left my body to now have to overcome. And so I tell you, it's amazing how we don't necessarily pay attention to how so many things that are involved in our world is all interconnected. And our bodies are such an amazing tool. Our minds, the body's amazing ability to heal itself. And I'm just really talking holistically right now, not medication. I'm not talking about, those areas, but, the important thing is working toward your alignment. And working toward your alignment, sometimes that means you have to ignore a lot of things that may be trying to vie for your attention. And you can only know what those things are that you have to minimize. And I'm not saying ignore friends, family, children, siblings, relatives, that, I'm not saying just totally wash anybody away. But sometimes you have to learn how to pace yourself and to figure out what is the best way in order for you to balance the things that are interacting in and out and inside of your life. So just my session today gave me a huge eye-opening realization of the importance of me getting back to I don't even want to say getting back, because I think the desire I have for me at this point is probably greater than any time I've ever experienced in my body as a whole. So I'm not even thinking to get back to where I was. I'm really looking to exceed where I was. And, as a professional, as a former professional athlete, I think it's been taxing to my mind frame of acceptance of the body and some of the things that I am now having in my person. And I'm not sold on it because I'm not accustomed to it, and it's not the natural element of what I know I feel in, for myself. So the tiredness, the fatigue, as they say, the pressure points, the high level of uncomfortability, the weight. I've picked up some weight since I've had a injury that caused me to have surgery, and it just put me in a position of picking up weight that I don't normally carry. And so my body's telling me, yo, you got too much going on over here, and you've been ignoring me you've been neglecting me. And so now that you've been neglecting me, I've had to take extra steps to do what I need to do, which in part it is get your attention. And most times that attention comes in our bodies in a form of pain, whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, mental, psychological. It can vary. And today, I can remember the moment of hearing this person that I never really, that doesn't know me, personally at all, be able to give reflection of how I've been dealing with myself and my body over a period of time. And the funny thing about it is that the x-ray shows it. The body's not, you can't ignore it when it's physically right there in the face of you. And you see the evidence of what has come to build up from the actions or lack of actions that you have had in your life cycle, right? So the amazing thing is, I'm still, very young in the dynamics of aging, right? At least to me, I still, normally most people will say they may feel their age, and this probably has been one of the times that I've felt the level of maturity of age for me because of some of the elements and some of the things that I have not been able to do that I'm accustomed to do. I'm gonna tell you guys, you'll learn real quick how to appreciate your body and things of that nature when you're not able to do certain things that you've been accustomed to doing. When you can't walk, when you can't talk, if you can't see, if you can't hear, you can't sleep, just these things that we do on a day-to-day basis that most times people may just take for granted because it's this automatic and it's part of who and how our bodies are structured to be, that we just go about our way. But what happens when those things that you're normally accustomed to doing or able to do don't show up and don't work anymore, and you're not capable of, even pushing through, It's hard to push through on a broke or a fractured limb, right? Ask me, I know. You can't get it to do the same thing because it's fractured. I remember I was talking to somebody the other day, and the aspect of the thought of a fractured joint in your body is patterned almost to how you can have some differences in the way you are as a person. Maybe there's something beyond you that is fractured beyond the physical limb, and until you are aware of the fracture, then you're walking around with, let's say you fractured your arm. You most likely, even if you got a high tolerance of pain, you're going to recognize that, man, this joint is hurting and there's something that's not giving me the strength or the ability to move it that I normally would. So if you're dealing with a fracture in your arm, you're not going to be able to pick up or do some of the things that you normally do with this hand. So what do you have to do? You have to stop using it. You have to put it on a position to be recovering from it. So imagine when you look at that in regards to your life and living in a fractured life, it gives you such a moment of evaluation, and you have to figure out where those areas are fractured, where they lie, where do they exist. And those are the things you don't want to ignore. You want to ignore the other things that are not allowing you to focus in on that. And sometimes it could be you. It may not be another person. It could be yourself that's prohibiting you from being able to see within, because you're not taking the time to look or evaluate the things that are not coinciding with what you know to be, and you're not a healthy makeup. So guys, I think the biggest thing is, taking those times to have self-reflection, self-evaluation, check in, because I don't necessarily mean that everybody has just this, ugly disruption of themselves, because we're all at different spaces and different places and times. But if there's some area, which it is, if there's some area that you have that's a weaker spot, focus in on that. Figure out where that weakness lies. Just like I said, the fracture. If you have a fracture in the forearm of your wrist or the forearm of your arm, then that area within a certain zone, you're going to be able to identify that that's the area there's weakness. Do the same thing when it comes to your mind, your body, your soul. You know, how you approach things, how you address things, how you talk about things. Are you talking about things that are, you know, just not of relevance, or they're not, you know, valid? They don't give you anything, or they're not giving to somebody else. Like, you know, for me, each week I am on this segment giving something to myself, and then taking from what I'm giving to myself and giving it to you. So it has to have some substance. It has to have some value, and it has to have some elements that make sense. If not, I'm going to be part of what you consider the noise that you want to ignore. So, guys, also recognize that sometimes certain things are just not worth your attention. It's not worth the time or the space that you give it. And even in your own day-to-day measurements of how you're taking up the space of your day, make sure that you're getting as much as you can out of it. Now, it's not to say that you may just have a day you just blow off and don't do anything. That's still invalid. I mean, that's still valuable. It's an invaluable time, and it's still valid, and it allows you to have the ability to rejuvenate. Like for me right now, I feel more rejuvenated because I started my day off getting those adjustments and getting those realignments and releasing some of the heavy pressure and strain and pain that was all over, you know. And so to get that done and to come out of that and to then be able to rest, which I wasn't even trying to do, but my body was like, sit down. And that hour and a half nap, it just restored me to be able to pull up and be able to have the strength to do the next thing. So that's another thing, not having proper rest. That is man, look, you know, a lot of people have had sometimes the most unconventional advice about, you know, living, business, personal thing, you know, don't sleep, I don't sleep. And, you know, that'll catch up to you. You know, we were made to sleep. We were made to have recovery. Some people sleep less than others. Some sleep more than others. But, you know, it's just as equally important as some of the other applications and things that you're doing in the day-to-day basis in your life. So make sure you balance that too, right? Even in your mind. Sometimes you're like, man, I ain't got time to I can't sleep right now. I got to do this. I got to do that. Well, sometimes you do need to stop, and you need to take that recovery period and allocate that time just for rest. And that means shutting off everything, not just sitting still, but maybe turning off, you know, electronics, televisions, radios, TVs, cell phones, social media. You know, the cool thing about an iPhone is you can tell Siri to put on Do Not Disturb and stop notifications, and, you know, having those mindfulness moments, right? So, guys, I appreciate you all having the moment of listening to this and giving yourself an opportunity to take note of another area of how we can just continuously to just keep developing and doing the things that we need necessary to do in order to improve our lives. And so, naturally, for those who are listening to this segment, I'm going to ask that you share it. Please send it and share it to your friends, family, anybody you know that it could be of good nature to hear this content. And I also want to make sure I got to remember to get myself in the habit. Man, listen, subscribe. We're on all of these different platforms. On Apple Podcasts, if you have an iPhone device, whether it's an Apple device, whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac computer, this is automatically included in your device, and it's free. Just download Apple Podcasts, go ahead and bookmark us, Loudmouth Radio, right? We're also on Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon Music, right? TuneIn, YouTube, iHeartRadio. So we're pretty much spread it out. Anywhere you can imagine podcasts worthy, we're there. So bookmark us. Please post a review and give me a rating. Let us know what you think about our content. And I hope that you're blessed and having a phenomenal week. We're already at the end of October. Tomorrow is Halloween. So if you're going to be going out trick-or-treating, if you're doing any of those things, even if you're going out to hang out or something like that, do it safely. And we look forward to talking to you again next week. Later.